Hello. Hey, everyone. Welcome to hashtag Let's Talk About It, a virtual conversation on mental health. I am your host, Paige Tucker. I am the owner and operator of Be Your Best You LLC. It's a coaching and consulting agency. We assist organizations and individuals in becoming the best versions of themselves. And we also do, I'm also an author. So in addition to all the other hats I wear, I am not licensed, a nationally certified mental health first aid instructor. So mental health first aid is an 8-hour course that teaches anyone how to respond to individuals that's experiencing a mental health crisis. So because of that, I am an advocate for mental health. And I thought it would be really important that we have this conversation for Minority Mental Health Month. So we have a panelist of individuals who have been through therapy, who've had experience with and who are going to share their experiences with us. And so we're going to introduce them, and then we're going to introduce our moderator, Ms. Kenyuatia Gash. So we'll start with Julia. Can you just tell us your name and why this conversation is important to you?
Hi, so I'm Julia Neely, and I think mental health is really important to me because it seems like we have a bunch of different movements of sorts where we are coming to realize, that our lives matter and our experiences matter, which also requires us to acknowledge that our mental health matters as well. So I think this is a really important conversation.
Thank you. And Ericka, we'll have you.
Hi, I'm Ericka Murph, and I think it's important because it's needed in our community. We, as African Americans, we're hurting, and we just need to have a place to just release that pain instead of holding it in, and instead of it being just bothersome where we're not able to release it. So this is important to let our community know that it is okay to talk to someone, and it's okay to need help.
Absolutely. Thank you. Ms. Ronnell.
Hi, I'm Ronnell Montgomery, and I feel it's important just for people to be able to have those conversations with that person who can be that support system and who can actually help navigate what they're going through without feeling that they have to fix them necessarily, or they have to necessarily solve their problems. And I think having conversations like these are very important because it removes the stigma and allows people to kind of normalize what it is. And then when they are able to see people who look like them or their friends who are talking about it, then I think they're more apt to want to seek these types of services for themselves.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Jason?
Hi, I'm Jason Thompson, and I think it's really important, especially as a man, you're kind of taught to not really talk about your feelings, kind of hold them in, and you're kind of seen as maybe weak or vulnerable. And that's something as a man you don't want to appear to be if you have, you're having some issues, maybe emotionally or mentally. So I think this will be a good discussion to kind of, educate people, especially in the Black community, because, we don't really have the resources that maybe other communities have readily available to them. And when we do, I think most times we don't know about them. I think people may only get these kind of services maybe if they get into the criminal justice system, then they may get some. So I just think it's this is very important.
Thank you, Jason. Sembali.
Greetings, my name is Sembali Cunningham, and I really think this conversation is important, especially as a Black man, because we tend to hold a lot of stuff in, or we result to other things when we have things going on. We result to other things like drinking and smoking weed and stuff like that to just make us not think about it. So I believe this conversation is very important to just enlighten other people that there are other options, that you can go to somebody, and that it's not just sitting on somebody's couch and just talking to them or just taking a bunch of pills.
Thank you. Tiffany?
I think it's very important, just echoing off what everyone else said, just to know that it's okay to not be okay, and that sometimes talking to an objective person can help you develop ways to cope better. So I just think that, you grow up in households where you're looked down upon for seeking therapy, or like they were saying, seen as weak or what have you. But people need to know that it's okay to talk to someone and to learn, develop some techniques to help you cope better given what's going on in the world today. And it continues to go on. So
Awesome. Thank you. And last but not least, Kendall. You gotta unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. Hey, I'm Kendall Johnson, and I'm an advocate for seeking mental health, just because in the African American community, we're told that mental health is not there, that mental health issues don't exist. It's frowned upon and hidden. When we finally do realize that someone has an issue, we hide it. And we frown upon, not all the time, but sometimes we tend to frown upon someone seeking help outside of Jesus. I feel like, just like if I can break my ankle, I'm gonna see a doctor. Something can be broken with me mentally. I need to seek help for it. So that's why I'm an advocate for seeking mental health.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, I'm going to introduce you to our moderator. Ms. Gash, also known as KL, is a licensed clinical social worker in the states of Virginia and Pennsylvania. She specializes in trauma and PTSD disorders. She also wears many hats, such as psychotherapist, advocate, change agent, entrepreneur, life transformationalist, clinical consultant, and a mental wellness coach. She hears the heart of the Black community and is ready, who is ready to heal, and she shows them how to address their mental and emotional challenges. They can finally stop hurting and starting living a life full of freedom, wellness, and harmony. So welcome, Ms. Gash, and thank you so much for being our moderator.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hello, Facebook family and YouTube family and whoever family this is going to go to. I'm so excited to be here. This topic for me is personal as well as professional. I have been doing therapy for about 10 years. I work with veterans as well as individuals in the community, and I see every day how just going to therapy, just talking in itself can heal us. So again, in the community, we're taught to go to church, give it to Jesus. But then what do we do after that? So it's more than just that. It's more than you laid on the couch and spilled your guts and now you go home. So these are life skills. It teaches us how to communicate. It teaches us how to resolve issues within ourselves, within our family. It also gives us our voice back, because dated back to slavery, we weren't able to talk, especially as African-American women. We were always taught to shut up. As children, we were supposed to be seen and not heard. So as you get older, what do you do with your words? You be quiet. You internalize anger, and then you grow up in dysfunctional families, as they say, or you grow up to become violent, either emotionally or physically. So the reason why I am such advocate for it, because one, I know that it works. Therapy is dope. I love it. I have my own therapist. I have to. One, because I hear traumas all day. Two, I have my own issues that I needed to process. So being able to be fully aware of myself helps me to also treat my patients with even more sympathy and empathy, especially in this pandemic. So we have COVID, we have police injustice, we have Black unrest, like everything is going on around us. And guess what? Life is still happening. So how do we process that? How do we get through it? One is talking. So because closed hearts don't get healed. You have to open up your mouth. We cannot read your mind. We cannot read your heart. So today we're going to talk about, not just from a therapist perspective, but the community. These are your brothers and sisters. These are not actors. This is their truth, and we are spilling their tea tonight. So if everybody is ready to go, we've really already answered the first question of why it's important in the Black community to seek therapy. So we're going to go into why was it important for you personally to seek therapy, and how was it for you? So Miss Ericka, I'm going to start with you. How was it for you, or why was it such, what was the catalyst for you to even seek treatment in the first place?
I just felt that my life was just a vicious cycle. And I got to the point where I felt like, what was my purpose in life? You know, I'm questioning myself, what's my purpose in life? My life is a vicious cycle. So it was needed. It was needed. I was taking on a lot of responsibilities as far as, you know, taking care of my parents when they were sick, you know, being a teen mom, raising a daughter, being a single mom and raising her till she was 16. So I was taking on a lot of responsibility, and I felt like my life was a vicious cycle and was asking what was my purpose. So I felt like it was time.
Okay. So how many of us in the room, including myself, have kind of felt that burden or that external stressors that almost to the point where you can't breathe, like it's almost choking you? So who else felt that? Okay. So Ms. Julia, can you speak about, you know, what was a catalyst that really pushed you into going into therapy?
I think I can just say, kind of like Ericka, that over time you go through so much stuff and you accumulate so much baggage that after a certain point in time, it becomes really heavy and it's really hard to bear. So then you reach out to your family and your friends and you want them to help you carry some of this weight, and they can't. They can't carry it for you. So then sometimes you start to feel like, oh, they don't know what I'm going through, or they don't care. They do, but they are not trained to help you in that way. So at that point in my time, I thought it was just best to, you know, seek professional help with that.
Okay. Jason, how about you? What was the catalyst for you that kind of just said, you know what, enough is enough. I can't do this anymore. It's either this or the alternative.
The catalyst for me was, very recently, with everything going on, I recently went through a divorce. I went through, my job was very stressful. And then just with the COVID affecting, things that I had to like rearrange stuff in my personal life, and then being isolated more because of COVID, you're just home. And then the Black Lives Matter movement, which, all those things I wasn't really expecting. And then there's a religious component that has forced me to kind of be separated from family. So I wasn't really having anybody to kind of, I'd say the isolation kind of forced me to kind of just be in my own head and thoughts. And I started not to enjoy things that I normally enjoy doing. And I was having so much anxiety, and I don't know if it was panic attacks, but usually I'm a person who prides myself in, never let them see you sweat, and never show anything's bothering you. And then I found myself getting emotional, actually crying, and I was like, okay, something's wrong.
Yes, so you was really symptomatic. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but you were really showing all the signs of depression and anxiety.
Yeah, and I couldn't control it. So
right.
I did call one of my friends, and he told me to take advantage of, at work, they offer us through work, you can get therapy sesssions. So.
You mean like the EAP program?
Yeah, through the EAP program. And thank goodness for, just having to reach out to that friend. And he suggested that, because I totally did not think of that. Like, I was at my wit's end, didn't know which way to go. Up is, left is right, down, up. I didn't know which way to go. So, and I'm new to therapy. So yeah, that's why.
So I saw that Miss Tiffany was shaking her head, and just I'm assuming that's your agreement of maybe some of the things that Jason and Julia and Ericka were saying. So the things that they were talking about, Miss Tiffany, is those things that you also can identify with?
I can identify with what they're saying. I went to therapy in the past. It's been 7 years since I've been to therapy, and the straw that broke the camel's back for me was the death of my mother. My mother was mentally ill, and I had to be pretty much a mother to her, and then still try to go through things that I had to go through with myself, being a mother. At that time, I wasn't married, but I was dating my husband, and so still trying to, sorry, y'all. So still,
okay, we're here for you.
To juggle everything, right? My mother just was the kind of person that nothing was wrong with her, everything was wrong with everyone. So probably since the age of 7 years old, I had to be the mediator between her and my father. You know, every time we went somewhere, I had to coach my mother, like, please, you know, relax, you know, don't get, you know, upset, whatever. And when she passed away, I exhibited a huge amount of guilt, because I felt like I didn't do enough to try to save her. She didn't believe in doctors, because she always felt like, oh, if I go to the doctor for this checkup, they're going to commit me. They're going to put me behind, you know, this place or that place. So I felt like I could have done more. And even though it wasn't my fault, I carried that guilt for so long. To this day, I still think about that. Like, what could I have done more to save her? So at this point in time, I do want to seek therapy for myself, just for a number of reasons. COVID, being a business owner, and the stresses that come with owning an event hall, with the entertainment industry pretty much at a halt, and how to juggle that, how to be that wife. I'm a mother to 2 adult children. They still have their own separate needs. So trying to find that place where I can have that self-care for myself. I'm so worried about everybody else and what they have going on. A lot of times I take on what they have, and it kind of paralyzes me and has me kind of at like a standstill with things that I need to be doing for my own self. So.
Okay, so I hear a common theme of everyone, or not everyone, most of us here have many responsibilities, and we have taken on many assignments that might not have belonged to us, whether they were friends, whether it was community, whether it was work, or whether it was family, and that in itself created additional burdens for you. And so as we're going to have Mr. Sembali speak upon it as well, I think that's one of the things that in the Black community, we're so used to, we have to be strong no matter what. We can't show weakness. We just take it and shut up and move on. And so this is another reason why we have such prevalency in depression, because we're taking on everything else, and we don't even have time or opportunity to deal with our own issues, because we're trying to help little sister or mama or daddy or grandma or Uncle Jay in his back room and all this other stuff. But when you have an opportunity just to be with yourself, when you have opportunity just to say, and from what I'm hearing, none of us had that opportunity. So no wonder Jason was exhibiting anxiety. He never had time to calm down. So what happened is that what you're not able to deal with or will deal with will eventually deal with you, and that will start the symptoms of anxiety, depression. I can't sleep. I'm oversleeping. I might turn to drugs. I might turn to sex. I start isolating. I stop enjoying life again, because I hate my life right now. And a lot of times we're not so much suicidal, but I hear a lot of times, I just want to stop hurting. If I don't wake up tomorrow, I'm okay with that. A lot of us hear that. So again, we're going to hear from Mr. Sembali of why, you know, what impacted your life? What was the catalyst for you to seek treatment?
So truly a catalyst for me to seek treatment. It started with a failed relationship, and really it kind of led into not having anybody to talk to about what I was going to, because, you know, I'm a man of faith, and, you know, you can talk to God and stuff like that. And I believe that, but sometimes you need somebody in the natural that you can talk to. And then when you talk to somebody, and then you have to worry about, are they going to go and tell this person, or are they going to go and tell that person? Or if you're going to talk to somebody in the church, are you going to worry about it getting out and it being preached about in the pulpit and stuff like that? And that's really hurtful. And so for me, like, what started it for me is, like, as I said, a failed relationship. And I wanted to see, well, is it me? Is it something that I'm doing or what have you that's causing this? So that's when I sought out therapy, and it just kind of opened up to me and made me realize stuff that was going on that I didn't even realize, that I didn't even pay attention to. And then most recently, when I went back into therapy, was just because everything was just getting overwhelming, and I found myself getting depressed. I found myself losing interest in the simple stuff that I like to do. It, like, I didn't care about anything at that point, and it's like I was praying and everything, but nothing was changing, nothing was shifting, and, you know, that's when I turned back to therapy again.
I thank you for saying that, because faith without works is dead. And just like we trust God to be our ultimate physician and our healer, he also put individuals like myself to guide you along that journey. So again, like Jason said, or even Mr. Kendall said, if I break my arm, I go to the doctor. So even if you have diabetes, we believe that God can heal you, but you better still take that insulin, right? So it's the same thing with me, that even though we know that Jesus is our healer and he's our chief counselor, I'm still here to help you process some things on earth until he manifests his healing in your life. And a lot of times, if we just talk about it, that's our healing in itself. If you were 4 years old and your dad promised you a bike, and now you're 74, and now we still mad about this bike, I'm gonna need to help you process. Is it really about the bike, or maybe it's about the broken promises that maybe your parents didn't fulfill in your life? But again, we're so tight, we're holding on to it, and, you know, I'm all right, I've been with Jesus all day. And that's great, but you're still broken. You're still not delivered. You're still having nightmares. Now you're mean to everybody because you have not been able to find peace or just freedom in whatever that you are struggling with. And so going on to our next question is, how did your family, or have you even told your family that you were in therapy or seeking therapy? And how was that for you? And what was the response from your therapy? So Ms. Ronnell, can we start with you with that question?
Yes, I've never had a problem with sharing that I was in therapy. And it was interesting. And when you look back, when I was when I decided to do this, I actually looked back in the past and remembered that when I was younger, we actually did family therapy, and this was probably in the 80s. So, and my dad was definitely a male. So I'm like thinking, wow, he decided that he would participate. It's not to say that it all went well, but we did see therapy. So I think it's been easy to be open, just because, like I said before, is to kind of reduce that barrier. So I'll say and I'll share a conversation, and I have no problems with saying, oh, well, in discussion with my therapist, and I think, like I said, I think it goes to normalize it. And and I think of her as like that combination therapist life coach. So I think that has been made it easier. And I've actually had people, because I've been so open, ask me, like, who's your therapist? And want me to pass on that information. So I feel that that's kind of the reason why I have to be open about it. And But no, like I said, I've been blessed to have main support. I would probably say for the majority, but you know how your siblings, I have a brother, you know, your siblings can be a little bit, not to say that they're all serious, but yeah, I've been blessed to have complete support in doing it. Yes, and so other family members have also gone through therapy as well. So I think that has been beneficial.
Thank you. Mr. Kendall, what are your thoughts on that? You know, being an African-American man, one, you're not supposed to be emotional. You're not supposed to share your thoughts. You're not supposed to be in therapy. You must go ahead and drink and, you know, maybe cheat on the side, go to the store, you know, whatever, hearted, fight, play some basketball, whatever. So, you know, how was it for you to really accept the fact that, one, I need some help, and two, how do I tell my family that I'm struggling?
I started, I would say, early in my life. At 23, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety and agitated depression. And I had to figure out.
Can you tell us what that is?
Well, generalized anxiety is just, from what has been explained to me, it's just anything can set me off. You know, a lack of order in my life can make me overly anxious. If I feel like my house is a mess, I get anxious. If I get overwhelmed at work, I get anxious. Agitated depression comes from that generalized anxiety. So my depression makes me really upset. So then that's when I started acting out and doing some of the negative things. You know, I used to drink really heavily, take a lot of pills. I've not necessarily been a fighter, but I've been in some fights. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
But I'm not.
You got beat up. Did you get beat up?
I can fight. If I got to protect myself, I can do it. But I haven't fought in a long time. But
okay, good.
So I was diagnosed with those things like when I was 23 years old. But what got me to the couch is just I got tired of not understanding how to handle my emotions. And to piggyback off what she was just saying, when I first started therapy, I was very excited. So I would go home to my family and talk about it. And a lot of them were accepting, but then some were like, there's nothing wrong with you. And they would laugh it off because, you know, that's not something we do typically in the African American community, like I said earlier. So some would laugh, some were real supportive, but I would talk about it. It helped me to just talk about it. And there were therapists that would tell me, if you have issues with this person, that one, go to them. And this is how you should handle that. So I got a lot of direction from my therapist because I naturally hold things in until I explode. So therapists have taught me how to not hold things in so much, to just be direct and let someone know how they made me feel. Or I deal with a lot of guilt about how I may have made someone else feel. So then that causes me to have anxiety and depression. So I've learned how to navigate through a lot of those things.
So it sounds like you were able to finally find your voice and use your voice in a more appropriate manner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, stand up for myself more and just be more direct.
Right. So I would call the interpersonal effectiveness of how do we get our needs met without becoming emotionally explosive. And also, as you stated that you would feel bad if you hurt somebody else's feeling as well, and kind of normalizing that. And I think that's kind of tricky because the issue is that you're going to therapy, but your mom didn't go to therapy. So you're trying to talk to mom, and mom's like, I don't want to hear it. Get out my face. So then how do you even I'm serious. How do you deal with that when you're trying to rehabilitate, so to speak, and the person that you're having the conflict with is not hearing you? Well,
my mom, I wouldn't say she was against it. My mom, Paige will tell you, my mom is a clown. She laughs at everything. So she kind of just laughed it off. Mm-hmm. But she was always more like, just do what you need to do to get better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I definitely talked to her about it.
I just want to add to that. I would say like the attitude changes around it. Like the more and more you talk about it, the more people around you who start to go to therapy. Because I just had a conversation with my grandma because I'm in therapy and I'm proud to be in therapy. Y'all don't even know how proud I am to be in therapy because I was broke down to the ground, like just broke down, okay? And
you saying you was broke down? Is that what you saying? You broke
like down? A rusty Cadillac with full flats down to the rims broke down.
Oh Lord. So,
but just in talking to her, she said something
Right.
very profound. Even going back to the whole faith and therapy, she said, you know, when I was going through what I was going through, I didn't have therapy. I didn't know that was an option for me. I had Jesus, and that's what
Right.
healed me. She said, however, I don't discourage anyone from
Right.
therapy and, you know, having a relationship with Jesus. She's like, but that was my only option at the time because I didn't know
Right.
it was a, you know, it was for me. She said,
Right.
but you know, so I think the attitude changes over time as you start to see more and more people normalize therapy. So that's why
Right.
this conversation is important, so that we can normalize therapy. I love having conversations with my friends and being able to say, hey, my therapist said, and nobody judges or nobody feels, you know, any kind of way, or saying, so to be honest, I'm an advocate for therapy, but I ran away from therapy for a long time. I didn't want to go myself. So when I finally went, I had some friends be like, what? You finally went? I've been trying to get there for years, you know? And so just having that support and encouragement is important.
And I think that brings up a very good point, Paige, is that you have to be ready to want to heal and get better. I treat many disorders, as Paige said earlier, and, you know, even with substance abuse, I could put a patient in treatment and rehab 27 times. But until this patient has said enough is enough, I'm tired, I want to change, it's almost for naught. So they're listening, but they're not listening. And some of it is denial. I don't got no problem. I just drink every day. I'm good. I pay my bills. I go to work every day. I'm fine. And so it comes to a point where you have to say, I don't like how my life is doing. I don't like the relationships. I don't like how I'm treating my children. I just don't like, I need to change. And so that is where, again, that's that catalyst that we said earlier of, you know what? It's time for a change now. I'm now ready. And so when you're ready, you're also more receptive to hear what the therapist is saying versus, okay, you don't know me. You don't know my story. I'm not talking to you. You just want to get in my head. You just want to give me some meds. I ain't crazy. And again, mental health is not crazy. That's a stigma. That's something that society put out. And everyone, let's talk about this. Everyone has mental health. It's our emotional, it's our psychological state of being, it's how we socialize in the world. Mental illness is a condition that affects our mental health, the condition that affects the way we process, the way we get along with others. So also letting people know and deciphering what is the difference. One is we all have, again, mental health. The mental illness, again, is the condition that affects our mental health. So even with talking about that, have you ever been in the situation where you are going to therapy and you know that your spouse needs therapy and they refuse to go? Miss Ericka. Yes, you boo. Yes, you boo. Let me get ready for this.
Well, yes. And it's funny because my husband is sitting right next to me. So I looked at him.
Oh, we saw the husband. It's the husband.
So we have been to marriage therapy like 3 times. So with marriage therapy, yes, he loves to go. He never turns that down. But personal therapy, one-on-one for himself, he has not gone. And I tell him all the time, you need to go, because me as a wife and a female, I don't understand what males go through. I don't. I can't. I'm not a male. So I think it's important for him to go, but he hasn't gone. Hopefully after today, he'll go because he's taking notes. Right. But I think it's important for him to go and be open to going, because it will make him be able to open up about things that has happened to him in his childhood that I don't understand, or he may not be able to tell me, and or him just basically just being a Black male in today is hard, so I definitely say that he's open to going now.
I hear you using your word wisely. She's like, because he's looking at me, so I'm gonna say what I need to say. Okay.
No, look, Paige, no, I would get, look, I would go there, but no. He always go with me as far as marriage therapy. We have no problem with that. Like I said, we've been 3 times, and it's always great. And I always tell my friends about marriage therapy. It's one of the best things. You know, just because you go don't necessarily mean nothing's wrong with your marriage.
That's right.
Our therapist told us it's like a booster shot. You go
right.
and you get that booster shot and you keep going. So you know, he's definitely supportive with that. So now I hope he does go on his own.
Okay.
There's reasons why.
Look, he's talking like this.
Oh, he's trying to get on it. Don't have us pull you in here, Mr. Husband. We're gonna pull you in here, Mr. Husband. And so I'm so elated. Are he coming in? He coming in, Mr.
Look, he's right.
Okay.
Come on, Mr.
I'll explain some things, okay?
Oh, I'm about to do a therapy.
Real and uncut, y'all. This is real and uncut.
This is real. This is uncut. Go, yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Husband.
My father was an old Iron Horse World War II veteran.
Okay.
And he reared his sons to say that the white man was out to make us weak. The white man was out to make us look like we're not good, strong black men. You need to suck it up and drive on. You need to be strong. You're not supposed to sit up there. Ain't nothing mentally wrong with you. You a man. That's the part of being a man. If you do not, and you sit up there and you cry, you do this, you do that, you're not a man. You're some type of female. So being brought up with a father like that, and he tells you how a black man is supposed to be, you tend to hold things to yourself. You have to handle it on your own, because that's how a black man is supposed to be. If you show any signs of weakness, you need to go see a doctor or anything like that, then that means that you're less than a man. You're not worthy of being a black man. That you're weak. You're less than nothing. So I've held a lot of things in. I've kept a lot of things to myself. I try to handle it on my own because that was the way I was brought up. I don't know if some of the other brothers can relate. I'm old school. I'm a 70s baby. My father was born 1923. So he's ironclad, old school black man back then.
Right.
So for me, when I brought up with that, and you know, with that type of focus, it is hard.
And before we have the gentleman jump in, and it's not only just your, first of all, thank you for sharing. Thank you, first of all. Second of all, it's not just your father, that's just society as a whole.
Yes.
We teach our boys, you better not cry, you ain't gonna be no sissy, you ain't gonna be no punk. You better suck it up and shut up. And if you don't, I'm gonna give you something to cry about. But what happens is that when we don't allow our young men or our young boys to cry, they grow up to be angry and violent men. And that's the other thing. Or then what also happens is if they're not violent, they internalize everything. And so when they're not able to release that, this is where high blood pressure comes in. This is where heart attacks come in, and strokes and back pain and all kind of issues and death. All because the body remembers everything. The body forgets nothing. So if I can't talk, and you're just sitting there, so year after year and traumas after traumas, and you have no release, it's gonna come out some kind of way. So either it's gonna be your mouth, your behavior, or your organ just gonna spill it out. So
yeah, we did have a lot of strokes.
Right. So I want to normalize it that not only did you have it from society, you also had it in the home. But this is the reason why we do therapy, so that we can talk about that. So now your wife has an understanding of, now I see why you sometimes be quiet, or why you go off to yourself and you have to process. So then also with wife, I'm going to allow my husband to have this time to process, but we still got to close this loop though. Like we still got to come back, but it's not so much of, well, you don't want to talk to me. It's not about that. I'm not even raised to talk. I don't even know how to talk. I don't even know how to do it. Right. So this is the importance of having therapy, so that the therapist, me, can help you to, did you hear what your husband just said? And first of all, we were calm. We wasn't yelling and screaming and cussing and fussing and you don't tell me and you're taking sides. It's not about sides. I want you to hear her, right? And I want her to hear you, so that you can be this and not be like this. so that you can have a healthy marriage, so that your kids and your grandkids or whoever's around you can see like, oh, I know mama and daddy didn't always get along, but they respected one another. They still was able to, before the night ended, they was able to resolve whatever issue it was. And then sometimes it's, baby, I'm just gonna let it go. Okay, you win tonight, all right. But it doesn't turn, it's not turning to bitterness or resentfulness. Does that make sense?
Tracking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. It's also you don't always have to understand to be supportive. Right. I'm not a man either, but I can still hear, I can still say, you know what, babe, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. That must be very hard for you to grow up and not maybe get a hug from your father. I didn't get a hug from my grandfather either. I know he loved me, but the hugging, he was like 19, like probably what your father was. So we didn't get hugs, but
I got a handshake.
Skills and I think matter of fact, my first hug is when I went to college and came back and he hugged me. I was like, grandpa, you okay? Like, I don't, because I wasn't used to it. Didn't say he didn't love me, but that's just the era. So again, talking about how did you grow up? Did you guys get hugs growing up? Or how did your family show love? What's your love language? So that again, we're learning each other so that we know how to understand each other. So we're not always taking everything so personal.
So just to add to
yes,
I want to say that I think that's a lot of Black people grow up like that, where your family loves you because you have food in your belly, you have clothes on your back, but in terms of that affection, a lot of times that affection is missing. It's to the point, like, so we have this running joke amongst me and my siblings. When it gets to all the hugging and emotions, we be like, we don't do emotions in this family. We'll do all that. We'll do all that, And so, but when you really think about it, why not? Like, why don't we do? Why does you hugging on me or me loving on you, why does that make me feel uncomfortable? Because we didn't get it. We weren't programmed to do that. And so now as adults, it's kind of like we don't know how to receive that. It's like, why you all up on me? Get out my face. What's going on? Why are you doing all that? And it makes it really awkward. And so I think as a community, we have to learn how to just love on each other. Not just I love you, but to show that. But it's going to take us to get past being uncomfortable. Because like, think about even how we give hugs. It's stuff like real patty.
Church hug.
Hug me for too long. I'm going to be like, all right, you're hugging me for too long. Let me go. This is weird. But why do we do that? It's because we haven't learned how to just rest in each other's arms, right? You're a kid, you fall down. They don't say, oh, come here, let me love on you. It's like, brush yourself off, get up, don't you cry, move and keep playing. But no, like, let me just rest. And so I think so many of us don't have the opportunity to do that when we do get in relationships, we still don't know how to do that.
Right. And that's the spillover of how I grew up is how I'm going to be. And if I don't get healed or able to process from these issues or this trauma or whatever, then it spills on into my marriage, and then it spills onto the kids, and then it just keeps going into the vicious cycle and a vicious cycle and a vicious cycle. And so I want to hear from either Jason or Kendall or Sembali. Am I saying your name right, Mr. Sembali? Because I'll make up a whole new name. Your name would be Terrence before it's over with. But hearing, I'm so elated to hear of the support. But what about for the individuals that did not get the support from going to therapy? Can anybody speak on that? From family members, like you might have told a family, they was like, "You crazy? What? Don't go out giving them people your money. Ain't nothing wrong with you. You just need to go to church, take some, go lay down." The famous grandma's thing is go lay down, right? So who would be willing to share on? I talked to my family and they shunned me.
I feel like my
black sheep for that.
I think my family has mostly been supportive. I think the relatives that I have that are closer to my age may joke about it. If I'm suddenly in a good mood, it's, oh, you must have went to see your therapist today. That kind of thing. So it's jokes, but it's never anything negative. Just little jokes here and there, little jabs here and there. But I think my family mostly is supportive. So I can't speak to that.
What about you, Jason?
Well, if they're watching now, they know I'm in therapy.
Well, cat's out of the bag on that one.
Cat's out of the bag. So, hey, everybody, if you know me, I'm in therapy. So, but I just started. It's only been 4 sessions.
Wow.
I did it. Well, let me back up. So I did do it like 2 years ago.
Okay.
With a black woman. But that was mostly.
Why you say that like that?
Well, I mean, she was a woman and she was black. I mean, just happened to be, you know. And,
Okay.
But I didn't really get into anything with her. It was mostly just, you know, kind of like the little honeymoon phase, and let me see what.
But how was that though? How was that being a man talking to a woman about your issues or challenges?
Looking back, like I only saw her like 3 times. Looking back, I definitely wouldn't have shared some of the stuff that even in these 4 sessions I've shared with the male therapist that I have now.
Why is that? I'm just curious.
Because I don't want her to know.
Yeah, we spilled all tea tonight. We spilled all the tea, honey. We spilled tea, Kool-Aid, the Pepsi, everything.
I don't know. Some of the stuff is like really, for me, I think is male kind of oriented stuff where I'm not saying that women can't understand, but I'm just thinking you may be thinking,
it's like,
right, a guy can go, I can understand that better just with a guy. So me and her just spent like pretty much the whole time laughing in our therapy sessions. Like I really didn't get into anything really. She probably think, I don't know why you're here. But yeah, I didn't really get into anything really heavy with her. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your honesty.
Jason's experience with a woman is probably similar to our experience with wanting to go to a black therapist. Some things are just understood, and you don't have to explain. So I think that may be where that comes from, because I don't want to have to give you a lesson, and I'm trying to get therapy too. Like, this is not school, okay?
Right.
Well, that I think kind of, yeah. I mean, that kind of goes into that one question: how is it important to have a therapy that looks like you? And so this time,
you don't do my questions. Don't look at my questions.
I mean, she led into it.
I ain't got time. I'm just doing it.
She led into it, so blame Paige, because I was kind of holding for that one, but
that's a good question.
We're gonna get there because
right. But okay, I'll wait.
And I'm gonna say that because a lot of times, like Paige is saying, it's important for her to have a black therapist. I know sometimes men are reserved with me because when I'm not a man too, they don't want to feel vulnerable in front of me because they're taught to be strong. So if you crying in front of a woman, that's a no-no. I can't let my guard down in front of you. So I was also wondering, was that some of the reservedness about, you know, maybe it was some physical issues or whatever the case may be, but because I'm a man and I'm strong, that being vulnerable in front of a woman is very challenging.
Right. So I would tell you this, and Paige, I don't know if Tiffany, I don't think was there, or Julia, but as part of the group that we're in, the YPs, we go out before pre-COVID, we'd go out, you know, to kind of the local spot here and kind of hang out and talk. And I asked a simple question of the ladies there: if you come home and you find your man like just crying on the couch, like, can he? And overwhelmingly, it was no. I'm gonna be single. I don't want no punk. I'll give him 2 times and maybe that's it. Well, he got to have a good reason to cry. Well, why is he crying? I don't want no crybaby. I said he just needed a release. I don't know. He just welled up. He just cried. You just happened to come home and catch him. You don't have a real reason. I said it seems like women can cry and without being judged as weak or vulnerable, but if a man does it, he ain't no real man. So it's all those kind of things that kind of leads to probably why when I had the female therapist, I was like, yeah, I ain't really. Yeah,
we got a peanut gallery on the side.
That's a Ericka's husband. I knew this was coming.
They judge you if you're a man and you just got tears coming out. They look at you like, look at him. Look at him.
Exactly.
You've definitely talked about this a lot, but I just want to make it clear, because I always have to add this piece when Jason tells the story, that I was not a part of that group that said that you can't cry. I said, no, you can lay your head on my bosom, and I don't say it would be okay. I said, now you can't be crying all the time. How all the time? Because nobody wants anybody crying all the time. However, I said it was acceptable, so don't ever put me in the group because I always get lumped in.
Say no names. I didn't say no names. But there's some people in the Facebook comment talking about, I knew this was coming. Some of the people.
always happens.
Yeah.
Me either. I didn't say that either. Jason. I wasn't a part of that.
I didn't say
I was not
anything.
there.
I didn't think you're right. But
Y'all doing the most. Y'all
but those who know who they are, who
wow.
felt like that. And hey, but I don't blame them, because that's how, to me, that's how women are raised. If you men as weak, if they
And that's
show.
society. Absolutely.
Look,
that is
I
society.
never saw my father cry. I never saw my father. Like, I can't remember one time I've been to his sisters dying, his brothers dying. I never saw my father cry.
Right.
Think of that. I don't even remember getting the hug from my father, but he loved me. I know that.
Right.
He
We know
provided
that.
for me very
Right.
well, but I
I've
never
only
saw my
seen-
father cry.
I've only seen my father cry one time, and that was when my grandmother died. When she died, I seen him cry.
And what did that do to
all
you
of
when
maybe
you saw
like
that?
5 minutes. And then he just wiped it up. He said, okay, now let's see what we got to do to take care of this.
Right.
And that was it. That was the only time I've seen that man cry.
You know,
And as far as the thing, yeah, he shook my hand or he slapped me in the back of the head. Good job, son. And that'll be about it.
And that's
No
about it.
hugs. None.
yeah, my father gave me kudos, but you know what? I would say the only time I saw my father show like emotion, it was pain. He had a kidney stone removed. They had to pull it out, and I saw my father screaming like I just.
And
it
moving
shook
on.
me. It shook me, because I had never seen my father like screaming like a woman, and I was like, oh my God. You know, that must really be painful for him to be screaming like that.
Right.
It shook me. I'm not gonna lie. To hear your daddy screaming in another room, like
that
he's getting murdered, screaming. So that, so
So, Mr. Sembali, you've been
Yes.
quiet. I know we got a whole lot going on. And this is what we're having fun because this is real life. We're talking about our life right now. So for you, how was it for you to explain to maybe your loved ones or your close families that you were finally getting the help that you know you needed? Or have you done it yet?
I can remember telling the person I was dating at the time, so I can try to get them to go, and I got a response, oh, that was nice. And then I told somebody in the church, and then they tried to make it seem like, well, I didn't have enough faith that Jesus would bring me out of whatever I was going to, that maybe I just need to pray right or what have you, and spend more time with him and meditate, and everything would be all right. And that's how they tried to make it seem. And so after those experiences, I was like, well, people don't understand me enough as is. People mistake me for other people as is. And I just kind of, this is probably like the most vocal that I've been, just letting people know that, yeah, I go to therapy or whatever, doing this live on Facebook and YouTube. But other than that, nobody else would have known.
Okay. What about you, Miss Julia? Excuse me.
So it took me a while to kind of come into it. Initially, I didn't mention it to my family. I kind of mentioned it to some of my friends. All of my friends said that they were proud of me and they were happy that I was going to counseling or therapy. And then when I told my sister, she makes jokes about everything, so she thought it was hilarious. But how
did it make you feel? Not to cut you off. How did it make you feel? And I know she's just a joking person anyway, but this is very serious. This also could have been life or death for you. So for you to have the courage to share this with your sister and she kind of laughed it off, how did that make you feel?
I mean, it didn't make me feel great, but I kind of expected that from her. But it made me see how important it is to be open about it and talk to people about it if I want to encourage other people to do it as well. Because I think she should as well. And so part of that conversation, me sharing that with her, is to encourage her as well.
Sounds good. Miss Tiffany, what about you?
At the time I wasn't married, but my husband now, who was my boyfriend then, and my kids thought it was fine. They thought it was great. They knew I did it. I was numb. Like I literally got up every morning, went to work, came home, and I went straight to bed. I didn't care if anybody ate. I don't even know how I functioned. I knew I took a shower, but life was a blur for like 6 months.
Right.
I was totally checked out. They liked the fact that I was going to therapy. They didn't make fun of it. They knew I needed it. A few of my really, really close friends were supportive too. No one made fun of it. It was a fine experience for me. The therapist that I had though didn't represent me. And so I only went to like a couple of sessions because I
talk
just
a little bit more about that. When you say their therapist didn't represent you.
Okay. The therapist, I went to 2 different ones because I tried, and they were older white women. And I just felt like they didn't get where I was coming from growing up in a Black household. Not saying that they weren't educated, that they didn't know their job, but didn't feel like they, you know, understood me. And I'll give you an example. So one therapist was like, well, what, you know, when it came to my kids, you know, what were my stressors? I was like, well, you know, my son, you know, he acts this way. You know, it's always a struggle to get him to clean his room, do his chores. You know, sometimes my daughter too. And she said to me, she goes, do you have to sleep in that room? I was like, no. Do you have to conduct business in that room? I'm like, no. He was like, so why are you letting his room being messy or whatever stress you like that? And I was just like, in one breath, she kind of made sense, but another breath, you growing up in a Black household, you're taught early on, you know, you need to do these chores. This needs to be done. That needs to be done. And I felt like,
yes, that is not an option. You gonna do it, or you gonna be sore.
So
that's how that works out.
So for me to now, everything that I knew growing up, to just unravel that and just let him be him and be a slob, to me, I felt like it wasn't teaching him responsibility. That it was just allowing him to do what he wanted to do and basically tell me, I ain't doing it. What you gonna do? You know what I mean? So it was kind of hard for me. And I'm like, well, I don't think she really gets that. That's not, in my eyes, I don't think that's right. Like, it goes against everything that I know, and it's a part of teaching your kids responsibility and to make them responsible adults. So after that, I was just kind of like, nah, let me just, and I went through the EAP. I worked for a financial company for 16 years, and I searched for a Black therapist. Back then, we're talking 7 years ago, it was really hard to find a Black therapist on EAP. It just, in that the network that my company went through, I couldn't find one, whether it was male or female. So I just kind of gave up on it and just kind of let it go.
So Jason, we're gonna move into your question. How is it, or how was it important for you when you were seeking a therapist, whether it was a licensed social worker, a licensed professional counselor, a psychologist, or, you know, even a nurse practitioner who treats psychiatric disorders, for that person to be African American? So
it was essential.
First, okay, you know what? Go ahead, Jason.
Well, you said Jason. I thought you said, you know, no, me.
Go ahead, Jason.
It was essential. I mean, when I talked to the EA people, like I stressed it, I want an African American male.
Okay.
And then they sent me a list of all Black women. And
so they didn't hear nothing that you said. Okay.
No, there just weren't any.
Okay.
There were none on the list. So one got on the list at the urging of a good friend.
Okay.
And thank goodness for that.
Okay.
Thank you to that person, Paige.
Okay.
So they got on the list, and I was able to see him. And so it just was just important, especially with, I knew the stuff that was affecting me, especially being in the job that I'm in. It's not a lot of people that look like me in there, and you're hearing all these background conversations behind you, especially with Black Lives Matter going on, and it's kind of a lot of, you know, kind of Republicans in the room, and they're saying stuff, and while they may not mean to be, they're just ignorant. And so a lot of this stuff, I just have to let it go, but I'm hearing it, and it just got to the point where the job is really high stressful, recently divorced, COVID, so like I'm in isolation, I'm just going to work and coming home, and then this, you don't realize, I didn't want to have to explain racial components to this individual. I just wanted to be able to say stuff, and they go, I understand, like when Tiffany said the room, because my mama was like, this ain't your house. You homeless basically. We let you live here, so you don't keep this clean. So if a therapist told you, they that's just cultural differences that I didn't want to have to explain to a white man about how I was feeling, and then I probably would have been insulted if he had tried to give me advice on, you know, how to deal with it. So it was the most important thing. Otherwise, I probably would not have seen anybody.
Mr. Kendall,
yes,
how
ma'am.
about you? How much weight does it have to be for your therapist? I lost my pen. Oh well, for your therapist to be of color.
Well, it's important now, but I have, like I said earlier, I've been in and out of therapy for a long time. But last fall was the last time I was in therapy, and a friend of mine recommended this guy to me. She said, "You need a black male." And I said, "I never thought about that." She said, "You need a black male." And when I got to his office, this dude, he shot straight from the hip. He said, "I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist. I don't intend to be here for a long period of time. If I don't see you making any differences, I'll fire you. But if you see that what I'm doing for you is helping, you fire me." In the 4 weeks that I was with that guy, I learned more about myself than I had in all my years of therapy. He was like, "You have abandonment issues, you put walls up, you shut people out, and this is why." And he said, "And you need to work on that." And it started from there.
May I ask a question? When I do therapy, I get to the root of issues. I don't do the leaves. I don't do surface stuff. I don't have time for that. And not in a disrespectful way, but this is about you. You were paying for this session. So I don't need another best friend. I'm here to help you. So I need to know, like, it's not about the bike. It's really because my dad abandoned me and didn't do this. Yes, let me get to that, because that's where the healing takes place. So was it for you, could it have been that you finally felt heard, that you were now able to start healing?
Yeah, I felt heard, and I felt like, you know,
and validated too.
Validated, heard, and previously everyone else they were so meek and just, they let me do and say whatever I wanted to do and say. This guy was just like, "Nope, this is what this is your problem, that's your problem." That's what I need, because I'm always in my head, and I believe my thought a lot. I'm always
some distorted thoughts, some sources going on in there.
Yeah, so he was like, "We got to get you out of your head," and he really helped me with it.
Exactly. What about you, Miss Ericka? Is it important for you to have a therapist of color?
Absolutely. The therapist that I went to back when I went when my mom was passing, she didn't really, I wouldn't say she really didn't help. She helped me cope with being that my mom was transitioning, because she was on hospice care and I was helping nurse her. So I mean, I feel like in that situation, anyone can relate to you on that. But definitely now, with what's going on in today's world, we need people to look like us. I mean, I'm sure a white person's not going to understand the racism that's going on today. They just don't. I mean, they can
sympathize, but not
empathize. Exactly, but they're not going to understand. And I mean, I just today when I was on a Zoom call with my job, my manager asked us how we was feeling, and he was saying, "I'm sorry, I don't know what to say," because he doesn't know what to say, because he's not experiencing it. So it's like when you have someone of your own race, you don't, exactly what Jason said, you don't need to explain. They already know. And especially and if you find someone that's the same sex as you, you really don't have to explain, because women, we go through things that men just ain't gonna understand.
Now where's husband on that? Why he hiding on that part? Where he at now? Husband. Yes, come on in here, husband.
But yeah, they just they just don't understand me. I'm 40, and I'm going through different things at being a 40-year-old female.
Her body changes. Some
bodies
things
change it, and I mean, he's there for me, but he ain't gonna understand. I mean, he's just not gonna understand. So, I mean, I can talk to, you know, you or Paige or Ronnell, Tiffany, and Julia, and y'all will be like, yes, girl, you know.
On behalf of all the black men, books can only tell you so much. I can read all I want to read to try and give her some type of comfort, but in the end, only a black woman would know everything about a black woman. I can tell her something to show her some support, say, okay, my husband is trying, but I still will not be as successful as a black woman who can say, oh, girl, I can relate to that. And then go
but you said a very important part. You're trying. At least you're trying to understand. That's important, because she'll love you just for trying. And let's be real, just because I'm a black woman don't mean I understand either. I don't know everything about everything. I don't know how you grew up. I'm from the East Coast. I'm from PA. And so if you're from California, that's a whole different culture. So there's some, Cali in the house. So there's most stuff that we can understand as I'm 39 and all these things. But again, I understand we have very similar foundations. And that is why in therapy it's an imperative that I don't put everybody in the same category. So I'm going to ask, what was it like for you growing up? How was your relationship with your mom, or how was it for you growing up black? Because I went to an all-white school and an all-black school. Some of us were raised privileged and some of us weren't. So it's always it's important that we, even on the therapy side, that I don't just take it for granted because you're black and I'm black that we know each other's story, because we don't. It behooves me to get to know you. That's how we build rapport, by you talking to me, asking certain questions, so that I can also know, what makes you tick. Why is that like that? Oh, okay. So your mom used to beat you. My mom didn't beat me like that. I mean, I got whoopings, but I was not abused. You know what I mean? So those are things, again, that I think that as some therapists, we have to take these classes called cultural competencies. And I said, but at the end of the day, what does that mean? Again, I'm black, but I can't speak for every black person. I can't speak for every black therapist. I can't speak for every black woman. I can tell you how it is for me. I can tell you how it was for me growing up and things like that. But, oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Some comments. We can talk offline about that. Yes, but I think just allowing you to be individual is the most important thing that I can do as a therapist, is allow you to be you, and giving you the platform without you feeling judged. I'm not here to judge you. I just want to help you. And so I'm going to ask some questions about you, because at the end of the day, you know you better than anybody. You with you 24 hours a day, some days, even when y'all sleep, or he's at work, or you at work, or the kids, and me, whatever, you are with you all day long. So I want to get to the innermost parts of you, so we can bring it to the surface, so we can process it. So now we can finally start having the life that you deserve. Because some of us don't even believe that we deserve a good life. Some of us don't believe that we're worthy to have a good life, based on traumas, based on, even not being loved. And it's so imperative that we're told, I love you. Those words have so much impact. And we use it so freely. Oh, I love you. No, I mean, like, I love you.
You know what? I hate that when people just be like, love you. I can't stand that, because that is so surface level, especially when it's family members or people like really close to you and they hit you with the love ya. Like that, to me, I'm like, no, I need a I love you. Do not give me no love ya, and do not spell it LUV, because to me that does not mean much of anything to me. That's very surface level. Like, I need you to spell it out and help me feel it.
Okay. I agree with that. I agree with that. I think we're going to talk offline about that, because I think there's some issues with that. And so we're going to do a session on that later. But getting to Ms. Ronnell, how was it important for you, or is it important for you, to have a therapist that looks like you?
Yes, and she does. And I actually, at the time that I started doing therapy, I'd probably say most recently, I think it was about 2015 I started again, I had two people who were close to me who actually, it was actually two coworkers, and they ended up sharing information about her to me. And because we were fortunate to have the insurance, that it was no cost. So we could, make weekly appointments or bi-weekly. And I just thought, you know, it would be good to talk to, you know, to somebody. And so for me, it was good because I didn't have to code switch and I didn't have to talk unfiltered.
Right.
So I think it goes back to what you're saying is that you don't have to teach anybody any kind of cultural things. So in conversations, I didn't have to explain to her what I was feeling. And I think at that time, and that's why I say, you know, there was personal things going on, but professional things going on. And I was navigating myself in a world where there were a lot of people, you know, who the more non-people of color. So, you know, navigating in white corporate America, you know, even though I was from the nonprofit, and just some of the things that were happening, and just being able to say, do you know what somebody said to me? You know, that's right. Just being able to say that, and to someone saying, well, no, explain to me. What did they say to you? Do you know, it was just,
like, come on, man.
Right, exactly. So it was kind of like, okay, she understands, and I don't have to, you know, think about, well, what is the right words to make her understand? So I think for people, and like everybody's different, so you just have to find somebody who clicks with you. But I think just it is just those things that you've grown up with, and just the way we talk and the way we navigate. And like I said, it was, you know, not having to code switch and just say, okay, I'm coming to you, I can be vulnerable, you understand. And then, you know, and it goes back to and I think even in some spaces, maybe religion, you know, we were talking about, you know, our faith and stuff, is that I think even from there, I think she was able to understand, you know, maybe more like the black, you know, church and that kind of thing. So I think I definitely, that would be my first recommendation. But like I said, I understand that. Yeah, so I think it's been very beneficial, because it'll still be, you know, like I said, I can still go to her, you know, and say stuff, and, you know, just like, okay. And then she gets it. And we don't have to, you know, I
you
don't
can be authentic. You can be your true self.
Exactly. Right. And I think because we move around in so many spaces that we cannot be authentic, to be able to have that therapist who can help you navigate that, but you can do that in that space to kind of release. I think that that's important.
Appreciate that. So Ms. Julia, this is your question. How was it for you? Did it matter for you that your therapist was of color?
So yeah, to a certain extent it did. So just to say, if I had been randomly assigned to some counselor or therapist, I wouldn't have gone, because like others have said, there are so many spaces that we're in on a daily basis where we can't truly be authentic, that I didn't want therapy to be one of those things.
Good.
So for me personally, I just needed that level of comfort. You're already going in talking about yourself and your life to someone you don't know. So you at least want to be comfortable in that space and be able to say what you feel and say how you feel it. So I feel like I got the perfect person. I can be a lot to handle sometimes, and she gets me together, and I like it.
She gets you together. Okay.
Right where she gets me together.
Okay, I like how you said that. Mr. Sembali, what about you? How important was it for you to have a therapist of color? Or do you have a therapist of color?
So most presently, with the therapist that I had a few months ago, I don't know how they look, because it was kind of informal, I guess, because of the corona and everything. And they kind of assigned me. So it's almost like a telephone, well, not almost, but it was like a telephone conversation. Like we're just talking on the phone about it and everything. And I mean, I feel like she understood me or what have you, but I'm not sure of her nationality or, you know, where she's from or what have you.
But do you connect with her? So, you know, and the most important part is, do you connect with her? Do you feel this is a good match for you? Do you feel like this is a relationship, a therapeutic relationship that you want to continue to have with the therapist that you have right now? That's the most important thing for me listening, is that, or do you have that right now?
No, I don't think I have. I think I had it when I first did my therapy session about 3 years ago. I had more of a connection then. This one just seems like just having somebody to talk to or what have you. and listen and just kind of explain things a little bit,
Okay.
help me process better.
Okay. So moving forward with your therapist, how are you going to navigate that if you're not feeling comfortable? And I like how Ms. Ronnell said she felt comfortable with her therapist. If you're not feeling that right now, what are your options?
Well, I am not presently seeing her because I haven't seen her in probably like 5 weeks now.
Okay.
So I'm not presently not even seeing her. I haven't presently talked to her or what
I
have
wasn't going to say nothing. Okay.
Yeah. But I believe that, going forward, I probably would, because I've changed insurances now too. So
Okay.
I probably would look for somebody different and somebody I can actually, see better. Maybe do something more Zoom-like or something like that, so I can actually see and feel. Because I'm really big on expressions, like how you looking when I'm talking to you and
That's right.
stuff like that. And I can't have that over the phone. I don't even like talking on the phone like that. So,
Okay. I'm glad that you're not discouraged. I know many of us get discouraged because it's not what we thought it was. It's not the connection. So I'm glad to hear that you're still trying and you're still saying, you know what, this didn't work, but I'm gonna try again. I'm gonna try a different way. I have a different approach. Maybe I'll take a referral, things of nature. So I'm very elated to hear that you're still willing to continue your journey of healing and wellness. So with that being said, what was your first therapy session like for you? Like your very first one, what was it like for you?
It was uplifting. It was eye-opening. Talk about my very, very, very first one, right?
Right. So when people come see me, I am a football fan. I am from Pittsburgh. Watch your mouth, those Steelers. So I have, see, that's all right. That's all right. So I have like the lights low. I have my Steelers stuff in my office. I have candy out. I don't want it to feel like I'm in a doctor's office and I have to sit up and I have to do all that. No, we're going to have a conversation because I already know that just for you to see me took a whole lot. Whether it was you, whether it was your spouse, whether it was jail and you had to see, court mandates. So I'm trying my best for you to feel as comfortable as possible. So again, and everybody's going to have a turn to talk about it. How was it? Were you nervous? Were you anxious? Were you sitting up? You didn't know what to say? You were stuttering? Did you just start crying and didn't know why you started crying? Like, how was that experience the first time you seen your therapist?
So when I first went to therapy back then, I was nervous. Like my leg was shaking like it is now almost. And
why's your leg shaking now? Just be looking at you. Okay, we won't look at you. All right.
I'm a very private person, so like even just getting me to talk sometimes, like
not anymore.
I can be very shy sometimes. And so my very first session, to be able to just talk to somebody and like they understood me, and then like she was at that time, now she was Black or what have you. And I was very quiet. I was very reserved, but my leg was shaking and I would talk because I just kind of didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to expect. But then she started asking questions. And it kind of made me talk, made me get more comfortable, and then I find myself getting more relaxed and, being able to just kind of like actually talk with her and actually enjoy like I actually left with a smile on my face or what have you. Because going there, I just kind of, I'm just doing this. And I didn't know what to expect. And I was, because I don't like to talk to people. I don't like to, it's hard for me sometimes to just kind of be open with how I feel and be vulnerable, because I'm taught to just kind of keep it inside and man up and just like pray about it. So that was definitely refreshing afterwards.
Very good. And I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that she was able to provide some kind of comfort for you versus you the whole time shaking, because then you're shaking, you're really not hearing what she's saying, because the whole time you're judging yourself, judging her. What does she think? I'm crazy? What is she saying about me? Oh my God. And then your thoughts are all over the place. And so you're unable to really focus on the session because you're so worried about everything else that's going on in the session. So I'm glad at some point during the session, she was able to say, okay, let's relax, maybe sit back, maybe do some mindfulness exercises, what we call like grounding techniques, things like that, so that you're able to feel comfortable to open up so she can help you to process. So, Mr. Kendall, how was it for you? Because you know you've been in therapy off and on. You've been saying that. How was your very first session? Like, how was that for you?
It was weird, and I stayed with her for about 6 months.
Okay.
But it was weird just because I felt like there were times when I was her therapist. She was telling me a lot of her issues. It was like anytime I'd say something, she'd be like, "Oh, I can relate," and then she would tell a story. And this started in the first session.
Oh, so it sounded like she needed her own therapist.
That's what I thought.
Okay, yeah. That's some transference. We don't do that.
Yeah, my first experience in therapy was weird for me.
Okay, that. I'm sorry about that. That should have never happened. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna keep my comments to myself because I don't know who's watching this, and we gonna keep moving on.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Ronnell, how was it? I remember you stated that you had the session as a child with family, but when you came to adult, it was about you and it was your turn. How was it for you in your first sessions?
I would say so. The therapist that I'm seeing now was not probably the first time I did therapy, and there was a time in between. The time that was in between was actually because of a trauma from a death that kind of happened unexpectedly, and the circumstances behind that. And so me and my daughter actually, we were blessed that through the church actually had a psychologist on staff as one of the ministers.
Yes.
It was awesome.
Yes.
And so I just felt that when that happened, it was, we've got to talk to somebody, because like I said, is when, family tries to comfort you. They're not really getting, you really can't talk because you're like, I can't let my guard down, because they're going to be like, oh, and then they're going to get emotional and you start comforting them.
Right.
So I think I was fortunate in that, is that because I knew her, I was still able to open up. But you, like I said, you still don't know what to expect, because you're like, am I going to like just freak out and all the emotions are going to start coming out? And then, will I ever really be able to talk and say what I want to say or get everything out? But like I said, it was a good experience. And even when I did it with my therapist this time, and still you don't know what to expect. I was just, how long am I going to be doing this? Is she going to say, or am I going to say something that makes her like think that there's red flags or something like that? But she I think she kind of like what she said, is just she set the tone for the room, and had that very calming voice, and I think that kind of helped put me at ease, and just kind of those well, why are you here type of thing, not like what's wrong with you, or what makes you decide you want to talk to somebody. I think that kind of helped me lower my guard. So like I said, it was good to have positive experiences at that time.
I'm scared to ask Jason how his session was, but I'm gonna go ahead anyway. So, Jason,
well, I'm a little unfiltered, so you're gonna get the my version of the truth. Anyway.
We've been praying the whole time that the Lord just help you through this. But so how was it for you? Honestly, everything going on in the separation and COVID and being a Black man with all this in the world, and you finally said, all right, enough is enough. But even I'm assuming maybe it was face to face or Zoom or whatever. How was it for you?
It's through Zoom.
Okay.
It's through Zoom. So I thought I'd set up my couch where I don't face the camera, and he just looks at the back of my head and I just talk. No, I'm just joking.
No, you wasn't. But go ahead.
No, it was good. It was good. We were face to face, and you forget that you're on a computer screen like you are now. And so I was determined this time to open up. So a little bit more. I mean, still had to kind of, you had that little honeymoon phase. Yeah. Before I know it, we started at, and then the hour was up, and I was like, oh, that's it, So because it was a Black male, I was able to say some things where I don't think I would feel judged. And even still now, it's still kind of, I'm slowly opening up the door. Like, even though, I like to talk, as you can see, I still keep a lot of stuff that I don't, share. And so I just let out certain parts, but he's doing a good job.
Can we normalize that real quick? Can we talk about how that is also important, because it's a relationship. It's a therapeutic. Now, the one that Mr. Kendall has, I don't really know that what's happening there, but it's a therapeutic relationship. So you have to learn to trust me as well. So I'm not going to, if somebody came up and just spilled everything, I'm not sure how I would take that, be honest. Because we all have levels of trust. And so, you know, trust is actually earned. We know that. So again, you're going to give some surface stuff, maybe about the girlfriend, maybe about the job, the neighbor that you don't like, and the dog you tried to kick yesterday at Walmart. I get it. And because we're filling each other out. I'm going to ask some questions. I'm getting to know you and you're getting to know me. And so once again, it takes time to build rapport. It takes time for you to really feel comfortable to say, you know what? I'm gonna give her a little bit more. Let me see what I say about that. Okay, then we process that. And then I'm gonna give her a little bit more, or him, right? A little bit more. And then that's how you continue to build your therapeutic relationship. So I wanna normalize that for everybody, that it is not, everybody's sessions are different, one. Two, it should not be expected of you to spill everything in the first session, because if you do that, then what are we doing in the second session?
Right.
True.
Or the third session?
I would say one other thing. I remember maybe in our first or second session, I said something, and like he gave me like, "Oh, this is because of this," and I kind of laughed to myself. I was like, "Hold up, slow down. I ain't let you all the way in yet. I got a whole lot more. They'll probably change that." So, you know, but we only have 4 sessions, but you know, I'm like, I ain't let everything out the bag yet. You know, I know other people have told me they go to therapy and they be crying. I'm like, y'all do? Really? You know, I did tell them that, you know, that was one of the things that made me, because all of a sudden I'm no crier, but I just found myself just getting emotional. So, yeah.
Because you never were allowed to cry. So it's spilling out. It's spilling out.
To be honest with you, I don't think the whole time I was married, I ever cried in front of my wife. Don't think ever. Honestly, the last time I cried, well, before my father died, I did, but that wasn't in front of anybody. That was in my work truck, you know, on the side of the road somewhere where nobody was me. But I think the last time I cried was when my grandmother died. And it wasn't so much I cried because she died. I cried because my mother cried and watching how hurt she was.
And that hurt you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that was in 8th grade. And ever since then, you know, I didn't cry. You know, even though when you see an emotional movie, you're sitting there like, it's a man like, this ain't bothering me.
I ain't gonna cry. I ain't gonna cry.
It ain't bother me. I ain't gonna let my eyes wear up. Let me think of something else. Let me look away. You know, that way you don't get those emotions. And that's how I process stuff. So, you know, just now I just can't deal with it without talking to somebody.
Ms. Ronnell, you have a question or a statement? If it's Tiffany, Ms. Ericka, we'll go to you next.
I just want to make a comment real quick, because I think it was important what you said about the trust part of it. And that's why I said, especially, so, you know, my therapist is local, and people in St. Pete know people in St. Pete. Right. And everybody's like, So when you have somebody who, you know, who she laid the foundation is that if I see you in the street, you know, I can acknowledge, or, you know, that conversation, because she knows how people feel about, you know, a therapy, you know, being in therapy, or whether or not that will call it out. But she wanted to make sure how I would feel or how I would react. And also because I said that I had coworkers, I would mention them and she would have a poker face. And we all knew that. She would not acknowledge that she even treated them, though they were the ones who referred me.
Right.
So I think that kind of, like you said, that trust in that, you know, I knew that what I said with her would stay there, kind of, you know, and she came from that, you know, place of, you know, whatever.
Professional.
Exactly. So I think that was an important piece. I just want that.
And that's great to hear, because we are bound by code of ethics as a social worker and through my license. So, you know, hearing things of this transference that Mr. Johnson went through, I was like, oh, I can't even hear that. Oh my, what? But again, it's also imperative, because I've treated people, I live in Hampton, Virginia. It's all that's just about active duty. It's a small military urban town, and everybody knows everybody, and most of us go to church together. So, you know, we have those conversations. If you acknowledge me, that's fine, but I will not initiate first. If you tell people I'm your therapist, that's fine. I won't and cannot say that I'm your therapist. And, you know, and those are the things that in the first sessions we're building that rapport, we're going to talk about that. And how do you feel? Like we're in Walmart and they, hi, Miss K. I'm like, y'all don't have to be so loud in this Walmart. Oh my God. But again, they initiated. I didn't walk up to them and say, hey, how's treatment? No, you don't do that, because I have to respect your confidentiality, your privacy, HIPAA, all those things, whether I'm at work or not, 24 hours a day, I am bound by my code of ethics to do so. So I'm glad that what I'm hearing is that you have some, well, Mr. Johnson, have some professional, so that really are holding to their missions of their profession. And also that alone, you feel more confident in her that she's not also telling somebody else, you know, I'm in here treating Renee, you know, she crazy, you know, her dad, and then all of this. You now feel more comfortable to share some things because you know that she's professional and that she's going to hold it, and not in the 2 sessions that your girlfriend who referred her, now she know what you're talking about. So that's important. Miss Ericka, how was it for you for your initial session? You know, how did you feel? What did you experience? Were you able to feel comfortable? Was a therapist able to normalize you being there in your first session?
Yes. I actually was like, wow, I didn't know how bad I needed this. And it was just because the therapist brought out things that I didn't really know that I was feeling. I knew I was feeling, but you know, it was deep.
Or why you were feeling that.
And why I was feeling it, yeah. And also, you know, just, you know how you have those thoughts of, man, I'm doing a lot. But, you know, everybody does a lot. Everybody has, you know, family, wife, mom, grandma. There's a lot of people that do that. So, you know, just acknowledge, you know, the therapist acknowledging and saying that it's okay to say no. And you don't have to always say yes, because I know I say yes to a lot of things. I always, you know, trying to do multiple things. So, you know, just saying yes, saying no to things. So the session was great. You know, it was awesome.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. So we're all people of color on this call, right? So I'm going to assume that most of us, if not all of us, was raised with some kind of spiritual component growing up. Whether your mother, grandma, auntie, somebody took you to church every Sunday, you was at Sunday school, I don't know, whatever. So being raised in the Black community, that is our foundation, Jesus. And so how, you know, and again, we were taught, like we said earlier, that give it to Jesus. Go on the altar, you pray about it. Or someone said, Mr. Sembali, you wasn't praying hard enough, or your faith isn't strong enough, or, you know, you must be sinning, or you must not be doing what you're supposed to be doing. But this is why you keep going through, you know, the issues that you're going through. So how is it for you to balance your spirituality, knowing that where you are in life needs more than just me going to the altar every Sunday? Anybody? I know that's one of them. Whoa, right?
I learned that you can be a Christian and not be religious.
True.
I learned that you don't need a denomination to define your Christianity and your faith.
Okay. So how does that play with going to therapy and accepting that I need more than just Sunday morning or more than just praying every day?
Well, to be honest, it took me until right now to realize there's certain things that I might need more than just my spirituality.
Right.
It took me to right now to see, thanks to the fellow Black men on this panel, that I am not a weak man if I go see and speak to somebody. I'm not a weak man to express what is on my mind.
Right.
To release that pain that I'm holding inside, because I'm reared to be strong. I'm reared to endure and take all, even from the husband standpoint.
Right.
So for me, this is like a new step.
I'm glad to hear that. That's what we prayed for. We wanted people to be open. And it's not saying that you have to see a therapist today, but we just want to give you a different perspective and just kind of normalize and take the stigma out of it's okay. And it's okay not to be okay. Nothing's wrong with you. Not necessarily that you need meds, but it's okay not to be okay. And it's okay to ask for help, because help is readily available when you feel comfortable that it's time for you to receive it. Mr. Kendall, we're going to let you have the last words before we wrap this up.
Okay, well, just because I pray doesn't mean I leave and speak about my problems. And so I think God works through all of us. So we can take that prayer and be led to someone to talk to, whether it be a therapist or a friend, to guide. God uses us to help each other.
Right.
That's how.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Miss Paige?
Yes.
Did I catch you off guard?
Yes, you did. So in regards to that, I think it's really important to know that therapy and spirituality coexist. Just like we talked about, your medical doctor being blessed to be, profession in the field, so is your therapist. And I feel like we are the hands and feet, right? So we bless each other through, Jesus works through us. He blesses us through each other, right? So if we're praying for somebody to talk to, somebody to help us, and then, this therapist comes along, oh no, I'm waiting for something else. Oh no, I'm waiting for something else. And I can say for me personally, I was waiting for a long time for something that never came. And so to finally be able to go to therapy and have that person that I can unload, because I carry a lot, and I pour into a lot of people. And so, and then I don't, a lot of times don't disclose, or when I say it, then it's like, oh, you'll be okay. You'll get through it. You're fine. You're this, you're that, because everybody thinks I'm Superwoman. I'm not at all. I'm broke down. I can be broke down just like everybody else. And so to have my therapist and be able to talk to her and just unload and her to be very objective, and for me to be like, yeah, girl, I was broke down in our first session. She was like, I wasn't gonna say nothing, but you were.
But I saw you.
And to be honest about that, or to, be able to have access to her and feel like I'm not unloading my problems on someone else, because she's there for me to do that.
Exactly. Can you say that again for the people in the back? Say that again.
So it's her job to listen to me, my problems. So I don't feel bad unloading my problems on her. I feel bad unloading my problems on my friends, because I know they got their own problems, right? But because I know this person is here for me, I contact her all the time through Messenger, through video, through phone, all avenues. Like, listen, I'm about to set it off in here today. I need to talk now. And so I love just being able to do that. And even like today, I was having a crazy day. It was super busy, but I still had to squeeze in the session just to kind of come down.
Right.
So just being able to, pray and have this other person to go to as well is because, like Sembali said, like, yes, I can pray, but sometimes you need someone in the natural. And so my therapist is my person in the natural that I can go to and talk to. And I had been to therapy before with a white woman, and it was horrible. It was horrible. I felt like she just sat, she just listened to me. She never gave me any advice. She never kind of helped me work through things. So I just stopped going. I was like, I could just record the camera and talk to myself if you're not going to really say anything, you know? And so that's what I did. I just started recording myself and talking to myself. And that's just kind of what I did until finally I got into therapy. In my first session, I broke down to the ground. I mean, like I was just 3 seconds, I was crying. I can't believe she understood what I was saying. But I just want people to really know and understand that faith and therapy can coexist. There's no one or the other, one better than the other. They can coexist, and it's okay. It is okay.
And it's okay.
To pray and then go to therapy. It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. It has truly been a pleasure. You guys are so awesome to talk about just how therapy is dope. And I can't wait for us to come back. I think Paige in a couple weeks, and we're going to do part 2, and we're going to really talk about how therapy has impacted your life. We're talking about, and even talk about what are some things that you can take away that was that one gem. Like if all the years or of all the things that this person said to you, what was that one gem that you said, yes, I need that, and that you hold dear to you? So we're definitely going to continue this. Thank you. Our Facebook, Zoom, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you are. We thank you for doing with us today, and we will be back very, very soon.
Yes, so August 7th, we will be back, 7 p.m. Look out for it. Follow Be Your Best You LLC on Instagram and Facebook. Thank y'all so much for tuning in and spending your Friday night with us, right? This is awesome. Thank y'all. Thank you to the panelists for sharing your experience and being transparent. It was amazing. And I called y'all kind of like at the last minute, like, hey, I just threw this thing together. Can y'all do blah blah blah? And y'all rose to the occasion. And it's just, that's the way God works. It just kind of came together, like just randomly. And so I'm just grateful for you guys sharing your stories. And, I think that we're really going to impact some lives, and we'll see y'all back here August 7th. So make sure you subscribe to Be Your Best You LLC on YouTube, like us on Facebook and Instagram so you can get your notifications when we come back on, and share. So with that, everyone, thank y'all and have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.